Welcome to Talking Shit Tuesdays. I'm going to do a really rubbish impression of JD now. Juice, nice. So, how's everybody doing today? We can all start talking now. So, how much have we been looking at today? So, we've had Antonio doing a bitch fest about the bitch fest that went on the other day, and I have a feeling. So, how's everybody doing? There you go. So, I did a proper JD Kain by having it on the second screen. So, let's go. If you want to join, send me a message and I shall add you too. Everything is public, so have a look on my my G Plus account. The join link should be there.
Oh, drat, I keep muting and unmuting myself. Hello. Well, I think it was like what we were talking about earlier, and Antonio did. I said I only saw the beginning of it, so I don't know if all 5 hours were bitching about the fact that he asks why people think he's unintelligent. He gets the answer, and then does hours on why do people think I'm not smart. And in my comment, was, well, okay, maybe he is smart, but it doesn't appear to be. So, Antonio, if you're listening to this, you should take that as constructive criticism. And you just don't appear to be very intelligent. That doesn't mean you aren't. Just means that that's the way you come off.
I don't know how much credence you can give to somebody's intelligence when, they're consistently siding with GMan and Darwin's deity and other people in the community where, I don't think Antonio even looks at the arguments anymore. I don't think he even understands the arguments. He's basically just falling into tribalism and saying that these people are correct without really having any understanding of who is actually correct. And that is what I pointed out when he had asked the question, why do people think I'm not intelligent? And it was a question that nobody wanted to answer. I mean, we would try to avoid this so we could make it more on the topics, but he did enforce the issue. And JD explained to him why people didn't think he was very intelligent, his writing level, his reading level, his comprehension level, all the different metrics that people use to gauge these things.
Well, not only that, JD was like, "Do I really have to tell you?"
Yeah, he was
trying to,
obviously. He was trying to be polite about it, correct? I mean,
yeah, he could have been outright and said, "Yeah, I think you're an idiot. I listen to what you say and you talk bullshit, and that's why I say such things." So, yeah, here's a demonstration. Here's an explanation of why, But he deliberately had to sort of say, "Look, I really don't want to have to say this, but if you want me to tell you." Really?
Yeah. And well, in the 5 hour thing that he had, and which was about 20 minutes initially of him just ranting about this, was an indicator of why people think that. He didn't take to heart anything anybody said. He doubled down on it like Ronnie did. And it was just like, if you want to understand why people don't think you're intelligent, go watch your video again, Antonio. Watch that first 20 minutes because it was painful. It was really painful because most people thought he was talking about Ronnie and Pillbox and other people because the projection was greater than anything I've ever seen in this community. Even Ronnie's projection, it couldn't hold a candle to.
Yeah, well, even really, it all comes down to the absolute mess of a hangout he ran the other day with where GMan had mod controls, which is never a good thing. It really, really is not. Was it both you and Hogtie, I believe, Steve?
No, it was me and JD, and then we left.
Yeah,
I got kicked,
right.
actually.
But what I mean is, you were saying, okay, well, I'm going to go now, but here's the final thing I want to say. Boom, you were gone. You got booted before you got the chance to finish your sentence. And the same applied with, with Hogtie.
Yeah, he got booted too.
Yeah, for being extremely polite, of course.
And the entire time, G-Man was playing with the volume control. That's what's his little toy. He would just lower your volume and thought that was just awesome.
Now wait, Steve. I'm gonna lower your volume now. I'm gonna raise Cliff's volume.
Yeah, it's like, who does this? Have you guys ever seen a hangout where that happens? Where people just sit there and say, "I'm gonna lower your volume now, Crisper. I'm gonna raise your volume now, Crisper." What?
Yeah, because he just thinks that people he thinks that people are as out of control as he is.
Yes, but there's no need to do that.
Yeah, it's like
maybe Maybe he's been listening to too much MK.
Well, the fact that Antonio doesn't recognize this, and he thinks this is all perfectly acceptable, right? He thinks this type of moderation is acceptable. He thinks this is how Hangouts should be ran, because he's gone the DD route. That DD says, well, you know how these atheists are, and you can't give them an inch. You've got to keep them on a short leash, kind of thing. They're all kind of falling into that mindset. The tribalism is strong there on that. So,
I think he has fallen in. I think he has drunk the clown car posse Kool-Aid, as it were. You know.
And what's going to be dangerous when they learn how to snipe?
Yeah.
As well.
This, I think the snipe thing has been removed now, but
no, it's still, you can still snipe.
Okay, but you know, I think he's learned the behavior of the clown car posse. You know, that you must stick with your brothers in Christ even if they're lying. That is just a given. You know, you must shine sunshine up Trump-vs-Hilary's backside at any given moment, saying how much of a genius he is at science and things like that, even when he doesn't know the science himself. I'm talking about Antonio here.
You're going to say something, Christopher?
Sorry, especially when he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my point. It's like that's what I was saying about his intelligence level. If you're just going to agree with people for the sake of agreeing, why bother? I mean, there's times, a lot of times, people be talking about a subject that I'm just completely lost upon. Especially like last night, they were talking about, I don't know, it was exegesis or something about the Pentateuch and books of Moses and all this other things that happen in all historical context, and I'm just like, yeah, I got no clue here, right? And it wasn't until the very end I had to catch up, and then I was like, okay, I agreed with General, and then I pointed it out. But at the beginning, between General and Justin Wilson, they were having a discussion. I didn't know what the hell they're talking about, and I wasn't going to side with anybody, even though I do agree with General on a lot of things, but I wasn't going to agree with him just for the fact that he was saying something. I wanted to understand what was going on first.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm starting to think that Antonio was just another version of Trump-vs GMan. That why go into their hangouts, because you'll just be blocked and booted and things like that, and told you can't talk and so on, and treated with disrespect.
Well, they just don't allow like free-flowing dialogue, right? I noticed they were protecting Ronnie in some ways, and I don't understand why, but they were in some ways, because when Ronnie was asking JD about I was like Le Chatelier's principle or something, and of course JD was like, well, what does it got to do with anything? Yeah, no, I don't know what it is. And I jumped in and I started asking Ronnie specific questions about DNA and stuff, and he wasn't answering any question that I had poured forth, not even remotely. I mean, it was so tangential. I'm like, what does this got to do with anything? Instead of bullseyeing on that particular thing, they were letting Ronnie just run, and then moved on to another thing, then move on to another thing. It's like, well, what's the point here? If you can't have a free-flowing dialogue to get to the heart of something, then it's very superficial. And that's when I said, I can't be in this hangout where there's just not any kind of a chance to have a dialogue. And I thanked Antonio for the hangout, and as soon as I thanked him for it, what happened? G-Man kicked me. I'm like, and I'm like, Antonio, you really think this is appropriate? This is why people think you're not very intelligent. If you side with this kind of stuff, this is your answer, your own question here.
I would like to know, maybe CRISPR can tell me, in the comments section underneath that hangout, what are we allowed to talk about? Because we've been told we're not allowed to talk about the science.
So here's the way I understood it. What we're allowed to do, we're not allowed to correct True in the comments, right? So what we have to do, if we want to correct him, is his numerous and pretty much constant errors. What we have to do is in the comments, try to get engaged in a discussion that True will never engage in.
Well,
there's a small problem there because he'll never actually engage, but that's what Antonio said, I think.
Is it? Because, you see, it's really weird. Trump-vs hasn't commented to me asking about a formal debate. And I responded to him. and I got chinned for that.
Well,
So
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
left wondering, what are we allowed to actually talk about in the comment section
well,
under these videos?
so I made one comment on there, correcting a few things that he said, and then Antonio sent me a message, and I said, okay, I won't do that anymore. And then I made 3 more comments about the fact that True had said about 2 weeks ago, I think, that he would be willing to talk to me about DNA, and I've been trying to get in touch with him ever since. Sent him numerous messages, various formats, and doesn't want to talk, right? So if I were him, I would say that's clearly because he's afraid, but who knows?
So is Antonio's okay about you putting that comment in then?
Well, he included me in the list of people who needed to shut up and only talk about debates, or trying to get debates scheduled. So probably not. I'm not sure.
Okay, so what's the comment section for then? What is allowed, do you think?
Being TE. I guess you can be Ronnie, or otherwise kiss Antonio's ass. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Well, I mean, who's the moderator over there though? It's Johnny 2K LC PFDF, whatever the freaking. I mean, the guy that has never ever been in any hangout. He just is 100% pure troll. You know, he doesn't like what you're saying. He's just going to mod you.
What are you talking about?
Johnny 2K, Johnny Lee 2K.
No, we're talking about the comments. The comments underneath the video.
Well, underneath the video, I was talking about the live feed. Well, the live feed's still moderated the same way, right? I mean, if you don't say what you like, you're going to be booted off the live feed.
We're talking about the comments underneath the video, because we're now being instructed what we can and can't say there. And this is what I'm trying to find out.
I just assume I'm naturally just
we can't comment. We can't comment on the content of the hangout, right? That's not allowed. And apparently you can't respond to a question by true empiricism either. And you mustn't talk about drama. And once you take the content of the hangout, responding to true empiricism and drama out, what else is there to talk about?
Well, Antonio thinks that anything relating to the topic or science is drama. Well, he just throws everything into that drama category. He's basically doing what Darwin's does. You're on my troll list.
No.
It's an umbrella thing. So anything that Antonio doesn't want to talk about or doesn't know about or doesn't praise them in some way, he just throws in that huge umbrella of drama. Watch. I guarantee it. That's what he does.
I mean, you know, as Fiona says, you know, if you're not allowed to talk about these various subjects, what's the point in having the live comments available?
It's not live comments.
Echo chamber.
Live comments. We're talking about the comments under the hangout after it's been uploaded on YouTube.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, that. Yeah, and what I'm saying, that's what you're not. I'm giving you apparently what you're not allowed to talk about there. So why doesn't he just disable comments?
He'd be better off.
So you're not allowed to talk about the content of the video.
You're not allowed to talk about the content of the video in the comment section on YouTube under the video.
Well, I mean, sure, he wants positive comments. I mean, look at Ronnie when he had to go find people that agreed with him. He had to go to a video that was 2 years old, where he edited out all the negative comments, and anything was left was like, "Yes, brother, you're so right. Yes, Jesus loves you," and that's all it was. And that was on some video that he did with the drunken.
And he's doing the Brett Keane's what he's doing, because that's what Brett does as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've all gone to Brett Keane school.
Yeah.
Well, Brett Keane does have like 20 hangouts a day.
Does he really anymore? I hear.
Yeah, he's back now. He's back now.
Is he back as an atheist or back as a Christian?
We don't know. What time is it?
He's a deist. And the reason that I know all this is because, unfortunately, I used to be friends with him, and I still get notifications to my phone every time he does a hangout. and he has a site that he uses, and it gets sent to my phone, and he's doing like 3 or 4 a day.
He's a deist.
Yes.
How do you go from atheist to Christian to atheist to Christian to atheist to deist? No, wait. Christian
He's
to
Brett
deist.
Keane. I mean,
Oh,
there's your answer.
Be a pantheist. He'll be a pantheist next.
He'll be a pantheist. He'll be a panpsychist. What is a panpsychist next week?
Or maybe he'll just take to worshiping Peter Pan and be done with it.
Baha'i faith.
He comes out like, I'm a Mormon.
That'd be awesome.
Scientologist.
Scientology requires too much intelligence for Brett Keane.
Yeah, well, it's Scientologist. There's too much control. Brett Keane wouldn't be able to deal with
He
that.
doesn't
But
have
Mormon,
money
I like
Scientology.
Mormon.
Well, yeah,
I like
and
Mormon.
He doesn't have the money.
I like
for
Mormons.
Scientology either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're out to make money. He's not going to spend any money on that stuff.
I'm quite convinced that no matter what, Brett Keane is an atheist and always has been. And he just flits around so that he can get people to like him or not come down hard him, because it's like, oh, you're a deist. What does that even mean?
It means he believes that there's a higher power, but he doesn't necessarily call himself Catholic or Christian.
Oh, like when he was a God believer before.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't call himself Christian.
No.
He always avoided
I don't know how you go from Christian to deist. I don't.
He's never called himself a Christian.
Really?
No,
Really?
he never has.
No, it's not. It's none of that. It's none of that. What it is with Brett Keane is it's an act of desperation of views. That's all it is. I need to change my position just so I get views, so there's more to talk about, because he just loves being on the Drunken Peasant show. That's all it is.
I have to disagree with you.
Really? Okay.
Having known Brett Keane for several years now, I have to disagree. It's not just an act. He actually completely believes in this, and I'll tell you why. His daughter has a disability.
Yeah, I know that.
This disability was life-threatening. Brett, apparently, from the story that he told me, was he got on his knees and he prayed and he begged God, if you're really there, please don't let my daughter die. And his daughter didn't die. She got better, miraculously, in his words, miraculously better. And he decided that he had to go through with what he had promised, and so he became a deist.
Never actually heard that one. I've heard like 3 other ones.
I've heard that one,
but never that one.
I've heard that one.
And that's the story he's constantly stuck with me, and that's over the last probably 3 years. And that's the only thing I have about Brett that I respect, is that. Is if it's true that he made a promise to some all-powerful being and he's sticking with it. I think that's kind of cool if that's what actually happened.
I think it's cool too, but you got to remember that he's got such a reputation of dishonesty and swindle. Just recently, he posted about. It was not a GoFundMe, but something similar. Like, we needed a car, and the goal was $10,000 for a car, because his son had a license. I'm like, it was so weird. Then that was deleted, I think.
It doesn't surprise me that he's still asking for money and things like that. That part doesn't surprise me at all. But when he says that he's a deist, I kind of believe him.
Yeah, and that's cool. I respect that. My heart goes out to him and his family with their ill daughter, and I don't ever want anything bad to happen to anybody. It's just, I don't know. I'm just babbling at this point.
Scott, if I change my religious views, I'm going to get views. So like next week, if I want to, just see, what would be a good one for me to just pick one.
Well, you have to e-bag and then get caught and then dox somebody and then come back to YouTube first.
One step at a time. I can do the doxing afterwards.
Well,
you know what? I'm not lying, Scott. I found out that I do have a new theological position, although I didn't give it to myself. I am what's called, according to the illustrious Matt Bell, I am a fundamentalist agnostic, and I'm the only one in the community. I have a unique,
Interesting.
and which I think is really strange because I'm still not fundamentalist in anything, pretty much. But yes, he thinks I'm a fundamentalist agnostic, and I'm the only one in this entire community. So there you go.
For goodness sake.
I don't know what he even means by it.
I think my greatest
about not knowing
contribution
what
to
somebody
that
means.
the other day was telling him to go fuck himself. Because he needed to hear that.
Steve,
Yes.
I think you should become a black Hebrew Israelite.
You know, hey, I'll tell you what. I was telling you, I was talking to Despised and Rejected last night, and he's a black Hebrew Israelite, and we had a great discussion. I mean, he was awesome.
That was a good discussion. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, maybe I should. You think I could, or
Yeah,
I don't know the criteria.
You know, thinking about the Black Hebrew Israelites, if you look at G-Man's current avatar, it's him like he's casting a spell over the Black Hebrew Israelites with flame and stuff behind. Makes him look like a weird magician. But
Actually,
it's interesting how it's kind of like he's trying to cast them into hell or something of that nature. Doesn't seem to get involved in the whole praying thing, though. You know, praying for someone's soul.
One moment, Steve. Actually, that would explain something of why G-Man always fights with you.
Why?
He fights with Black Hebrew Israelites. If you were one, that explains why G-Man fights with you all the time.
I'll bring that his attention that I'm converting to Israelite. No, but Cliff, you had brought us something about the puppet master thing. Do you guys remember a long time ago? Well, I guess not that long ago. Where G-Man was saying that he can't wait till he's in heaven, looking down at people burning in hell. Remember that?
No, I don't pay that much attention to it.
He said that.
I remember that.
Yeah, and Vecco has kind of gone on that, and he said, well, if I'm up there and I'm applauding that people are in hell, it's not because I'm looking at my children and my family and my friends burning in hell. And liking the fact that they're burning, I'm applauding because justice has been done. And I was like, wow. And I was like, okay, you know what? If you're gonna label my position theologically, I would be atheist to that particular deity. I was just appalled that somebody would sit there and say, I'm applauding that my child's burning in hell, but it's not because they're burning in hell. It's just because justice has been done.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the it's kind of like my favorite bit in the Bible where God gives everyone free will, but then drowns the entire planet for disobeying him. Creates hell for disobeying him. It's like, was this free will needed for then?
It's free will. It's free will, but you got to do what I tell you.
Did you miss the part yesterday where they were talking about people anthropomorphizing God? And so the phrase "made in God's image" doesn't mean that man looks like God.
It could be a spiritual image.
Well, it doesn't have to be a physical. There's anthropomorphizing doesn't have to be physical. It just applies traits to him that are generally humanistic traits.
It's not supposed to be literal. It's the imago Dei. It's not.
Yeah.
God has 2 arms and 2 legs. It refers.
Mormon say he does.
There's a couple of discussions. Well, God, of course, came down as Jesus and had 2 arms and 2 legs, but God doesn't need 2 arms and 2 legs. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But it refers to the soul or the spirit of God. There's some various different ways of putting it, but that's basically what it refers to. It's not that. But the way some people talk, you think they expect 2 arms, 2 legs, and
a belly button.
Well, I was
especially when they keep asserting that I'm not an ape. I can't be an animal because I'm made in the image of God.
Yeah, that's the part that is weird. No, because it's our body, our physical, the meat suit, this thing we wear. That's whether it's our consciousness, our morality, or whatever else, it's embedded in this meat suit. That's what that's meat suit is what is an ape.
That's what's an ape. Yeah.
That's what's an ape, and who cares? Who cares?
One of the things that gets me though is that if you listen, the Bible literalists somehow, it's literal until they want it to change and be not quite literal.
I mean, they're made in the image of God, so God shits. Okay.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. Like, where does God poop?
Maybe that's.
I don't know, but isn't that how he created
wherever he wants.
Oh,
What
come
they're
on,
reading.
come on. We got to go there. Kim
Yes, we
Jong-un
gotta
is
go there.
made in the image of God. Kim
Yes.
Jong-un does not poop. Come on.
Yes, we have to go there.
Oh. But I've got to ask, did anybody watch the presidential debate last night?
Oh,
No.
please don't. No.
We did.
Okay, hang on. I
Oh,
just,
no,
have,
here
I
we
just have to
go.
ask one question about that. Was anybody else waiting for G-Man to show up? Because that's what it seemed
Wasn't
like.
he on stage?
It seemed like Dawkins' deity or Darwin's deity for me.
I was waiting for Dawkins or G-Man or somebody to just show up and wreck it even further.
No, I didn't watch because I don't want to be throwing things through my DVD.
I heard it.
I don't know.
pretty quickly.
Well, I just had this inspiration of imagination where suddenly Donald Trump just goes, "You're a fucking troll."
I think. I mean, as an American, and so many people are not. I personally think that the vast majority of people I've talked to and I know have all reached the conclusion that, you know what, we're fucked either way. They just don't even care anymore.
That was the longest SNL intro ever.
You know what? It's funny. I don't feel that way. I don't feel we're fucked either way. I'm sorry. I can't go down that road. I mean, I went through 8 years of Bush. Give me an effing break. I went through how many years with what's his name? Can't think of the other president.
Bush Senior?
Republican. You know, give me an effing break.
Hey, I survived Nixon, and I'd say you did
Right.
too.
Nixon and his shit.
I
And then
survived Carter.
Ronald Reagan and his shit. Give me an effing
Why
break.
does nobody bring up Gerald Ford?
You know, I'm amazed. She looks a lot older for 26, does Hillary Clinton, because apparently she'd been fighting ISIS her entire political life.
ISIS turned up in 2013. 2013. So she would be.
So I think we're fucked if Trump becomes president.
Yeah, I still would pick Trump over Hillary. They let the bottles be thrown at me. But of
All
course,
right, well, have a good night, everybody.
Depends. I can't. The fact that someone who doesn't know the age of the earth might be the possible president of the Senate one of these days, that just kills me.
Well,
Got real quiet in here now, didn't it?
Right.
Yes, I would
Well,
pick Trump over
well,
Hillary. I say it proudly. Deal with it.
I love you, Steve, and most of the time I think you're pretty bright, but right now you're in the stupid column.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll accept that. I can't stand Hillary with passion. I just cannot. She's the most dishonest person in the history of mankind has ever been in politics.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right.
I think
As soon as a woman is assertive, she has a problem.
That's nothing to do with her being a woman.
Assertive. I have been saying this all my effing life.
Why does it matter if
As
she's a
soon
woman?
as a woman is assertive like a man, she is something, whatever. Just drum up something.
Nah, hasn't to do with her being a woman. That's a red herring.
The best part of this hangout is that Steve McRae is going to be one of the topics.
At least I have the balls to say it, right? I mean,
I'm sorry,
there are Trump
Steve.
supporters out there, you know.
I find it amusing you suggesting that Hillary is the most dishonest person you've ever come across, and you're a part of this community.
No, in politics.
Well, but she's not even close.
Yeah, Steve, let me ask you something.
Oh, God.
I knew there was a reason I didn't want to go down this route.
Yeah, this is why I don't go into politics on my channel either. This is exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know I named my daughter after Ronald Reagan, so I mean.
know. I know. I have the same reaction, Paul. But I
People
still love
cringe
Steve.
on that.
I mean, I survived Reagan as our governor, and I was working for the welfare department then, which was one of the three things that made me hate Reagan because of what he did to the disabled and the most vulnerable people in this state. Yeah, not a fan.
I know. See, but Jade, you're a Polas, a rubber boxer fan. What Nancy Pelosi? You're in that category, kind of.
Yeah, but I was raised a Republican, so I'm not exactly ignorant of the other side. And I respect a decent Republican. Unfortunately, we haven't had any for a while. At least not in the spotlight. There are a number of excellent Republican congressmen.
Yeah, I'm the same way. There's some Democrats that I liked. I liked. Remember James Traficant? Traficant, he was a dependent. He was a Democratic member of the Senate, and then he got arrested. He actually became an independent.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of things he used to say.
You know, when I listened to Donald Trump last night in particular, I was so reminded of true empiricism. Thin-skinned, double down on every single thing, and this is the person that people want in charge of nuclear weapons.
Well, I mean, he was,
and the bit that worries me is, so someone in some other country says something he doesn't like, which happens in politics across the world.
Did you see his? Did you see his response after? I mean, I didn't watch the. Okay, I got somebody at the door. You're saved.
Well, Cliff, you say that. I mean, he was clearly channeling Ronnie's grammatical prowess there a few times. I mean, I don't know.
Who would you rather have as president, Trump or Ronnie? Just think about this one.
I actually think Ronnie.
At this point, Ronnie, because I'm pretty sure Ronnie wouldn't nuke anybody.
Yeah, and the thing is, the Ronnie
just can't just arbitrarily say I want to nuke somebody. It takes a little more than that.
But just having that mindset is dangerous. The fact
I'm not saying Trump is wonderful. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Trump sucks at foreign policy. Yeah,
he knows nothing about
horrible.
Politics.
Well, he knows nothing about economics, apparently.
Oh no, he doesn't. He's had bankruptcy after bankruptcy after bankruptcy.
I think he does.
His response to that? Oh god.
I think he does understand, microeconomics. When it comes to macro, and he understands, like the economics works across the country.
He doesn't understand how inflation works.
No.
Macroeconomics for him is whatever is in his pocket.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the bit that disturbed me was where he basically gloated because I'm good. In other words, I didn't pay taxes. I didn't want to play a part in this society. I decided to not pay my taxes in order to make myself richer and not, give to society, the society
did you notice
which I live with. And then, he's called out for that and says, yeah, that's because I'm good.
And did you notice the part where he said that he doesn't honor his contracts?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, but did you hear the remark after they were talking about nuclear weapons to say something happened in the Middle East and there should be some kind of nuclear thing? He goes, well, I'm paraphrasing, but he just blew it off like, well, so what?
Yeah. Ronnie's campaign slogan would be making turbines great again.
Oh my god.
A motor in every pot.
Talking about his grammatical, whatever it is.
Yeah, let's go to Ronnie and forget about Trump.
Did anybody see that wonderful comment about nucleus?
Well, there were those two brilliant ones you brought up, Fiona. You got to tell everybody both of them because it's
this is epic.
Yeah, nucleus also can break down water.
Let's let that sink in a bit.
Oh no, I was there for that. That was, I believe, in response to me and CRISPR, because I went first, and CRISPR was more intelligent than I was.
Now, to be fair, I think that was pretty obviously a typo.
I don't know.
I hope.
I don't know.
Everything he says is obviously a typo. That's
the only explanation.
It's hard to tell. And from the same thread, I brought up the one about the freezing. If anybody can find that one,
I think
I'll accept it was a typo, CRISPR, but he hasn't commented on either way. If he says, obviously that was a typo, I won't bring it up again. I mean, except for comedic value.
What happened was his account got hacked while he was typing it.
Yeah.
I was trying to hack his account and changed it.
Can anybody try and
was
find
it hacked by Darwin Deedy's dog?
Can anybody try and find the other comment that I'd posted? It's the one about freezing. What he said about freezing.
Was that the -30 thing?
No, it's in that thread. But he said something about.
I remember it. I can paraphrase.
You know the one I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So he was saying that basically he admits that it's really slow at room temperature, but obviously when it goes from freezing to room temperature, it gets faster, and then at room temperature it's really fast.
Yeah, but can you find the comment? The way it's worded.
Faster it gets warmer. We talking about sex?
He also said
comment.
You can only find
I'm
that one.
looking for it right now, but it's
in that thread.
Yeah.
He also said you had to have a catalyst for hydrolysis, which I thought was kind of strange too.
No, you don't. You can have acid hydrolysis of nucleic acids.
This is a dumb question, but is that how the RNA does its thing? Like is that by Lewis acid?
What?
Hydrolysis? Is it the acid hydrolysis? Is that how oh no, I'm sorry. I'm not thinking RNA. Never mind. Forget what I just said. I was thinking Lewis acid for some reason.
If it's an acid, how come it isn't dissolving everything? Okay, I feel better.
I'm melting. Help me. I'm melting.
There's only one I can find here. And it was, what was it? I'm not talking about a buffer, no, am I talking about nuclease water? Neither was in the article. I simply used temperature as an aspect to focus in.
No, that's not it. That's not it.
After that, there's nothing else. If there was another one, he deleted it.
It's just that my computer.
Was it on a Rational Mind post?
No, it's on the thread that we were all reading. The thread.
Yeah, it's.
I think it's a thread I started.
There's the quote as the temperature being frozen increases, all bonds would break much sooner.
That's the one. That's the one. So read it out slowly.
And it says, as the temperature being frozen increased, all the bonds would break much sooner.
Hey, can you read the sentence right before that? I think it's important. I think it's relevant.
If I can find it again. I was just finding where it was quoted, so. Oh, goodness.
Are we on a break or?
No, we're trying to find this.
Yeah, this is a bio time.
I'm going to go and look for it myself. It's all.
Yeah, no,
we're in deep thought.
I took my headphones out for a second because there was something I wanted to watch, and then I came back to silence. Like, all right, am I disturbing Steve's prayer?
Oh, sorry, you're not paying attention to my hangout?
No, because they're talking about Katy Perry on the TV, so she surpasses all of you.
True.
I do love how Ronnie wants to just, assert for me what my level of intelligence is and what my level of education is.
Well, according to Ronnie, nobody's intelligent but him.
Well, I mean, he told myself and Christina Blackfeather to, just shut up because we're clueless fools.
I saw that. That was in the live feed, right?
No, this is in my.
No, that was in this comment thread.
Oh, I know I read it somewhere. I read that where that's right in that in the same exact thread. Comment on that, right? Right.
Yeah.
I'm in the medical profession. She does know a little bit about the topic.
I have to smile at this. Someone in the chat has Trevor Lunn has said Fiona versus Trump-prism equals thermonuclease war.
I like it. But he asserted that I wouldn't go into a live room with him, which is awesome. I love that just assertion.
Right, here we go. I've got it. Got the comment. And that's where I had said, and that's where the reference I provided you with comes in. You see, in water alone, the half-life of the phosphodiester bond is 33 million years. 33 million years. So he quotes that, and then he responds, at room temperature, As the temperature to being frozen increased, all the bonds would break much sooner. This delusion of yours that an abiogenesis environment was some convenient paradise for DNA is a delusion. So he's told me that my delusion is a delusion. No shit, Sherlock. But he's completely missed the point in that paper that I showed him. That the half-life was 33 million years at room temperature.
Yeah, but you showing him a paper suggests that he actually read it.
He tried reading it. He actually wanted to read it on air. Like literally.
He didn't need to read it. I explained it to him.
Is that the paper though that says something in water and he asked, how do you know it's pure water?
Yeah, that would be the one.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember that he asserts in that particular comment that we're talking about abiogenesis. No one who has talked about this specifically so far has mentioned anything about abiogenesis. It's just us talking about DNA as it exists now in the environment that exists generally in the lab, trying to make a point, and him going, la, 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 I can't hear you because I'm right.
Here's the other thing. In Antonio's hangout, he tried to start bringing RNA into it. And he's saying that the conversation had actually started with RNA. And I noticed a comment earlier on today where he now is going on about this thing about the discussion about RNA and DNA. So now he's starting to add RNA into the equation.
Oh, good. He's rewriting history in his own head again. That's awesome.
Yeah. But it was CRISPR. It was actually CRISPR that found that paper about the half-life of the phosphodiester bond.
Yep.
And the point was that in water, at room temperature, the half-life is 33 million years.
Do you think the Trump president knows what half-life is?
I explained it to him. That's the time it would take half of the bonds to break.
The really funny thing is that the point of that paper was actually that in the absence of any good enzymatic catalysts, right, the bonds would be too strong to have sufficient turnover. So he wants to say that the bonds would be so weak that you can never get buildup of any complexity, but actually the problem is the reverse, that the bonds are so strong that you can never really get any diversity.
And this is what I was trying to say to him. Look, this is how strong that bond is. Look at this, but 33 million years.
And then
and he's picked, and the funniest thing is that's the strongest bond in the DNA molecule.
Yeah,
and that's the one he picked as the one that falls apart.
And then he sort of compounds it by by talking about how the temperature on the early Earth would have been. I think his exact quote was between 70 and 2000 Fahrenheit. But
I have something to say about that. Okay, well, let Paul go.
No, that's real quick. The bottom line is he's just looking for flaws. Period. Whatever he thinks is a flaw in the procedure, whatever it shall be.
But he hasn't found any flaws. That's the problem.
I understand it, but to him, anything that he can read real quick and doesn't go any further, that's the solution.
It's as if he
thinking again. Don't do that. Stop thinking.
It's as if he doesn't read every single word. He just scans, and certain words pop out at him. He then takes those words and puts them together in his own unique narrative. But I spent the other day, yesterday actually, quite a bit of time looking up the thermodynamics of the bonds in DNA. When you start getting into chemical thermodynamics, things get complicated. But that bond's really strong. I'm tempted to do a video explaining the chemical thermodynamics of DNA, but then I realized I'd have to explain chemical thermodynamics, period, which is okay.
Well,
but I think I could do it, like starting with how water, is exothermic, you creating water is exothermic. You know, I think I could do it. I'm still thinking about it, and I might do it. But yeah, you got to explain the basics first.
Jade, we've even shown him diagrams of what a dissolved molecule of DNA looks like. I showed him the picture of the salvation shell.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah,
still
visual aids,
a long chain molecule.
Yeah.
It hadn't broken down into its constituent parts, and it hadn't lost its sequence.
Right.
Now, and here's something else that I think CRISPR might find amusing. Apparently, Ronnie had to tell all of us what the bond was called.
That was funny.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Johnny didn't know that was a bond call.
Is that kind of like how he keeps telling us that, you know, what DNA stands for?
Oh, good
And
grief.
getting it wrong
Yeah, you mean
every single
deoxyribose?
time.
Yeah, no, this is more along the lines of, he kept saying that when it dissolves, it breaks down into its constituent parts. So we asked him which bond, and he avoided naming a bond.
Yeah.
And
James Bond.
everybody just played dumb on this, because I mean, I certainly wasn't going to be accused of putting words into his mouth or giving him any ideas or misrepresenting them. And eventually, in his discussion with Old Ty Champ, he finally said the phosphodiester bond,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when
He
he
did-
nailed his own. That's when he nailed his own balls to the wall.
Not,
He
you know,
did
they
say at
don't
one
like the
point
senator.
that there's some controversy over which bonds, and I remember cracking up at that one.
What?
Yeah, and I'll have to see if I can find that again. That was pretty.
Yeah,
Can
well, you
anybody
changed
t-
it to the other-
Can
you changed it to the
anybody
other bonds.
point me? Can anybody point me to this controversy over which bond breaks down when DNA dissolves in water, so that it's broken down into its constituent parts and it loses its sequence?
Yeah, and
Can I just
And-
ask make a
And
request?
hold on a minute. And he will need to point out that with this controversy, he's also going to have to explain why PCR works and why DNA sequencing
Well,
works.
PCR works because of intelligent design, of course.
But here's the thing: he's busy whiffling on about this temperature and all the rest of it. So the first step in a PCR reaction is incubate it at 96 degrees for 5 minutes.
Now, he said that he made the claim that it breaks down at the phosphodiester. I can't remember what it was. Sorry,
Phosphodiester
bond.
bond, yeah.
Which is the one it actually breaks down at?
Well,
It's,
hold on.
a hydrogen comes off the phosphate group.
Right.
Well, so all of the bonds can break eventually
Mhm.
with enough energy, but the requirement of energy basically gives you an equally long half-life, right? So the more energy it takes, the longer it takes for it to happen randomly at room temperature.
CRISPR, do they call that a spontaneous breaking of the bond? Is that what when they refer
Yeah.
to it as spontaneous breaking?
You could call it that, yeah. I mean, it's you know. So I mean, the point he doesn't seem to understand is that the point of a catalyst is to lower the energy requirement, right? So if it's lowering the energy requirement had been higher, right? So that means that if it had been higher, you could have gotten to it anyway, right? So you could still do this reaction. It just takes a lot more energy. So
yeah, it's an allowed reaction, but with a higher activation energy to make it happen.
Yeah, that's the point.
Right. So to actually answer Cliff's question, which of these bonds break down? Well, you know, all of them slowly, very, very slowly. The N-glycosidics are faster than the phosphodiester. The carbon-carbons on the backbone are faster than are in between the two. So.
Yeah, but I think Cliff was asking which bond is it that breaks when you dissolve it?
I'm effectively asking that what is the reality compared to what True was suggesting?
Yeah, the reality is that it's called deoxyribonucleic acid because, you ready for this fanfare? Somebody blow me a fanfare.
I don't know.
It's an acid.
Dun dun dun.
Acids are proton donors.
Right.
When you dissolve an acid, it loses a proton. The proton comes off.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't even call that the molecule breaking down. I
Exactly, but
that's
that's the
gain a proton. Who cares? I mean, that's just.
And isn't that exactly what I told him when I went into his hangout? I explained it perfectly to him, and I still don't think he got it.
Right. Cliff is asking what happens when it dissolves. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously,
and what I'm saying is, a proton comes off.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's all that happens.
Cliff, that's not the same as degrade, Cliff, and that's the difference.
Exactly.
He's using degrade and dissolve exactly the same, and that's complete nonsense.
Yeah.
And the strongest bond, which is the phosphodiester bond, takes 33 million years in just water. And what's the do you remember the time of the?
One of them was like 7 weeks or something.
70 is
7 days.
Days, something like that.
Yeah, but so I mean, when you dissolve
70 years, no, not 7. Are you talking about at 92?
Is that which one? Is that the glycosidic linkage?
So when you dissolve DNA in water, the act of dissolving doesn't break any of those bonds you're listing. The act of dissolving does not break any of those bonds.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly the way to word it.
Exactly.
The fact that it has become dissolved in water allows for the very slow process of hydrolysis to start, right? Because obviously you can't have hydrolysis if it's not in water. But
unless well, Ronnie says otherwise. Ronnie says hydrolysis and breaking by water are not the same thing.
But he claims
he might be an idiot.
He might be.
But he claims that degrade and dissolve are synonymous, and that and he claims that DNA degrading is synonymous with DNA dissolving. He stated that twice now in the last couple of days.
And there's also the term breakdown. So dissolve, breakdown, and degrade are sometimes the same thing. Degrade can be dissolved, degrade can be, it's very confusing. But he's using those three terms, and he's trying to play a juggling game with those three terms to somehow end up with all the balls in one hand, so to speak.
Well, when I tried to explain that to him, he told me to stop playing semantics.
I know.
Yeah, because he doesn't understand that specific terms mean specific things in science, in biochemistry, in chemistry, in biology, you name it. But he thinks that degrade and dissolve are synonymous. And that's where the problem is lying, because his first claim was that when DNA dissolves, what's happening when it's dissolving, the actual the dissolving reaction is that the phosphodiester bonds are all breaking and the sequence is lost. That was his initial claim.
Did it make sense, Cliff, about what's actually happening when it just goes into water, it's just dissolving, and it's just one little hydrogen ion that's coming off from an OH group. That's it. It's not breaking any of the bonds in the macromolecule itself.
You're trying to explain something to someone who has no idea what you're talking about. And unlike Ronnie, I'm not going to make claims of this. Now, here's the thing.
We can show you a picture.
I really ask the question so that the audience can understand.
Well, let's put it this way, Cliff. When you dissolve sugar in water, it's still sugar, it's still sweet. It hasn't broken down into the carbon and the hydrogen and the oxygen. It's still a sugar molecule. It stays the same chemical.
And I think if you get rid of the water, should we say, if we you evaporate it all out, it'll still have the sugar back.
It would go back to the crystalline sugar.
Yeah.
Now, if the DNA fell apart at the phosphodiester bond, so that the sequence is lost, what would you get when the water evaporated off? It couldn't go back to its original sequence, could it?
No, it'd be good.
Because how would it know what order to put them in?
Mm.
So it means that you could never do a PCR reaction. You could never do a DNA sequencing reaction. You wouldn't be able to do any of those things. And yet, those techniques are used by thousands of people in thousands of labs, millions of times a day, all over the world. And they work. They would not work if Ronnie was correct on this.
Yeah, I mean, isn't a cell, doesn't it have a thing called water in it?
What?
A
Our
cell.
cells made of water.
And
I
some,
can't.
Cells have water in it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How come I can never find a photo of DNA in solid form? It's really hard to find anything in solid form. So I always assume that's dissolved.
Well,
Yes.
you can actually find.
Search for
Sorry.
DNA pellet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Hey, good
Yeah.
idea.
It's
You're smart.
Now,
slightly translucent looking thing.
I wanted to mention, Cliffjumper brought up something and I remember this now that Ronnie had said before, because I'd actually answered this under his video, or Antonio's video, his video, I don't remember what, where he was claiming that all reactions require a catalyst.
Oh.
And I said they don't. And if he's listening, which he's probably not, maybe somebody is, I'll tell you what, you want to see a reaction that doesn't require a catalyst. I want you to get a glass of vinegar, and I want you to dump some baking powder in it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then let me know what happens.
Yeah.
You might want to do this outside.
Or
be.
Or if you would prefer, mix different things that are all different kinds of bleach together, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or bleach and ammonia. No, let's not do that one.
Yeah.
We're not
Let's
trying to
not
kill
do
people.
that.
No, don't.
We're not trying to kill people.
Take a good whiff of that.
I just want to make it clear that is one thing you do not want to do.
Jade, I mixed bleach and ammonia. What does this smell like?
Listen, you don't even need to go that far. Bleach mixed with a little bit of hand soap, and your eyes will start burning.
Well, bleach mixed with ammonia creates a gas that's similar to something I can't remember the name of at the moment.
Mustard gas.
I thought it's phosgene gas, similar to phosgene.
Yeah, so you don't ever want to do that. But you want to have fun. Take some, vinegar and dump in a bunch of baking soda.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to get these little submarines in.
Yeah, I remember them.
In cereal boxes. This is before people got all worried about kids swallowing stuff. And the submarines were really cool. Because you take the little submarine, you pack it filled with baking soda, and then you drop it in water and watch it scoot around.
Wait a minute. Is that why they stopped doing that? Stopped because of kids?
Yeah,
And cereal
kids would.
stuff?
Yeah,
Well,
and Cracker Jacks, same thing.
Yeah,
So
but
we stopped getting.
But doesn't that take out the dumb ones then? And the problem is?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that's why we stopped getting cool stuff in Cracker Jacks, because we used to get really cool stuff in Cracker Jacks, and the toys in cereal boxes. Yeah, that because kids would swallow them, and they were a danger, and you couldn't.
Jade, by the way, bleach and ammonia will produce chlorine gas, and then chlorine gas is very similar to phosgene.
Right.
Chlorine is obviously Cl, but phosgene is COCl, not mustard.
Oh, okay. Well, but I knew it was just really, really dangerous. I forget what it.
Yeah, it'll kill you.
Forget what it was. I were to stop and think about the chemical reaction, I could probably figure it out, but I didn't because I forget. I mean, I know ammonia.
Before chloroform, it's like, hey, what it goes.
Yeah.
What does it smell like?
Mm-hmm.
There was, I did notice something else.
Can I just say somebody has just a comment in the live chat. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the precipitate.
Hey, and let's all remember.
Thank you, Trevor.
Let's all remember that. I'll remember that in chemistry, whiskey is a solution.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
I was just gonna say though to Steve, you know, if you try
Whiskey is
that
a solution.
if you try that with me with the chloroform, I would say it smells like chloroform. Why'd you just put that in my face?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, you wouldn't be you wouldn't be the person I would ask.
But no, I was
That
just
was
saying that
called a-
chloroform. You have to hold a rag soaked in chloroform over somebody's mouth for about 5 minutes before they go out.
Yeah, it's not like 2 seconds,
a-
right?
There's a very special drink that used to be sort of popular in San Francisco in certain places. It was called a Mickey Finn. Anybody remember that? You know what that was?
Mm.
Okay, a Mickey Finn was named after a bartender. I think he was a bartender or bar owner named Mickey Finn. And what they would do is they would Shanghai sailors, and they dump chlorohydrate in their drinks. And some of the bars conveniently had a trap drawer that they could drop the sailors into the basement, and then they'd haul them onto the ships. When they woke up, oh, you just signed on. That's a
Yeah, this
Mickey
is one
Finn.
way to recruit, right?
Yeah, so you guys have never heard of a Mickey Finn?
No, I know what a Roy Rogers is and a
No,
Shirley
I
Temple.
had heard of it.
You know.
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
Can I ask a question to the audience that's watching? It's to RSC227. That thing that you said, you can't precipitate without a catalyst because water cannot hydrolyze by itself. Is that a quote from our friend that water?
Yeah.
Did he say you can't precipitate without a catalyst?
Well, I don't
Because
know. I
water
don't think
cannot hydrolyze by itself.
I don't know about that one, but he did say something about water not being able to hydrolyze by itself. He
It
gets
does
his
sound like
words
something.
confused. Yeah.
What?
See, he starts talking, and he has this stuff, you know, in his head. He has it memorized, but he trips over his tongue. I'm pretty sure he didn't literally mean that, but he did say something at least similar to that. I don't remember the exact quote, but, you know, water not being able to hydrolyze by itself. And I'm pretty sure he knows better than that. But the problem is he's so ignorant of so many things. It's hard for us to tell when he is tripping over his tongue.
Yeah.
And when he's actually saying something. It's just difficult.
I still like my poem, and you guys have all heard it before, but the live feed.
Yeah.
There once was a chemist, but he isn't anymore because what he thought was H2O was really H2SO4.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you've
I love
heard
that
the
one.
joke.
I got
about
heard that
the-
in high school, and I think that's funny.
You heard about the joke about the two guys who went to the bar? The one guy looked at the bartender and said, "Hey, I'd like H2O." And guy gave him a glass, and he drank it. The other guy said, "Oh, you know what? I'd like H2O too."
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's an oldie. I wanted to go back a bit to
Water cannot perform any reactions without a catalyst.
Yeah, he thinks that.
Well, but no, wait. So if I take a hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide, and they're solutions, remember? And there's water, yeah, and there's water in them, and everything has to be in solution. And then we get a neutralization and the production of water.
Mm-hmm.
And can somebody tell me what reaction is happening when you drop a lump of sodium onto water?
Ooh,
You know what? I have used. You know what? Is not like producing hydrogen. I watched that thing that Thunderfoot had on that. He actually put a paper on that
And
about what actually happens with that.
And what is actually happening with that?
He determined that what's happening is it's overcoming the Coulomb barrier such that the edge of the sodium is actually deforming, allowing more surface area to be exposed by the water to be reacting, and it's producing hydrogen very, very fast, and that causes it to actually explode.
No. What else? I'm asking about the reaction. It's fizzing round in there. When the sodium's fizzing round in that, why do we store?
Hydrogen.
Why no? Why do we store sodium under oil?
It's
So it doesn't
because you're
react with
getting
water?
sodium hydroxide.
Sodium.
Yeah, and what's the reaction again? Remember, water cannot perform any reaction without a
Solid.
catalyst.
Yeah, the solid sodium's reacting with the water, basically splitting the hydrogen off the hydroxyl.
But
and getting-
there's no
yeah,
catalyst. But there's no catalyst.
Well, he would say, I'm sure that the sodium is the catalyst. He would be wrong, but that's not the point.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Well, he
Oh,
makes
heaven.
up his own definitions, so you know.
RSC has added more info on the external.
Wait a minute. A catalyst is something that is going to speed up your reaction, but remain unchanged itself.
Mhm.
Yeah, so how would the sodium be its own catalyst or something like that if it's because
If
the
it's
sodium
ending up as
obviously
sodium
changes.
hydroxide.
Yeah, the sodium gets used up. The catalyst doesn't get used up.
Well, I said he'd be wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you did.
Seriously, can anybody remember what age they were when you covered the first time you covered catalysts at school? in the
Oh,
chemistry
I had a
class?
chemistry set. I remember in like elementary school, I made sodium hydroxide.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah,
remember in the chemistry set, one of the first things you make is sodium hydroxide. It produces that white slippery shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, not
I-
producing it. I'm talking about when you first heard about what a catalyst
Oh,
is.
well, yeah, same time. I mean, elementary school.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but it had to be elementary school because I know that I knew what a catalyst was when we covered it again in 7th grade science. So it had to have been before 7th grade.
See,
And the catalyst remains unchanged.
Right.
For me, it would have been grade 9 science.
I think for Ronnie, it would have been last week.
Is that when he got to that chapter in the book?
I thought the question was, when did you actually understand a catalyst?
Oh, probably not until
Oh,
high
yeah,
school.
there is that.
I mean, we didn't go into the Gibbs energy or activation engineering, that like that stuff until actual chemistry in high school.
I'd say I understood it in 7th grade.
Well, you're smarter than the rest of us, Jay.
Yeah.
But I also had a chemistry set, although one of the first things I made was gunpowder.
Oh, I might have known.
Why don't they have those chemistry sets anymore? They have those little plastic
Because
containers
people
and they have
will
the
make
number on it.
gunpowder.
Those were great. Those were,
It's
I
because
love those things.
Children can make things that can harm them, and people can get sued, and people are
yeah.
stupid.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Again, and I say they take themselves out of the population. What is the problem?
Yeah,
Well,
it's how does
I
the
would
natural
like-
selection work?
I would like to point out that although I made gunpowder and I also made fuses by braiding kite string and soaking it in sodium nitrate solution.
I can see you doing that too, making sodium nitrate and potassium nitrate and mercuric fulminate and all this stuff.
Potassium nitrate, not sodium nitrate. Potassium nitrate. Sorry. Yeah, I braided kite string together, 3 strands of kite string soaked in potassium nitrate. I then gave the fuses and the gunpowder to my cousins and let them test it. See, I'm not stupid.
This is what students in the 60s got up to.
Yeah. No, this was the 50s.
Oh.
I was actually like 8 or 9 years old at the time, so it was still the 50s when I did this.
Okay,
And I
so
know
yeah.
because we moved when I was 10, so I know it was before that.
Just for completeness, I will read out the definition of a catalyst in chemistry.
Uh-oh.
Catalyst is a substance that speeds up a chemical reaction, but is not consumed by the reaction. Hence, a catalyst can be recovered chemically unchanged at the end of the reaction it has been used to speed up or catalyze.
Yes, Pope.
Yeah,
please do not mistake a catalyst for a listing that says Siamese, Manx, Himalayan.
Very funny.
That's a different kind of catalyst.
It's a cat that's kind of leaning over because it's sleepy.
That's what Freddie did to my trackball the other night. I don't know if you saw that comment I made.
I remember when we did this sodium in water experiment. All the other classes, they had a little washing up bowl and a little piece of sodium was put on it, and it whizzed round and went pop.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Just
in
like
our
curiosity,
class.
have you read Thunderfoot's paper on that though? It's really interesting.
No, I haven't. And our chemistry teacher was slightly different. He'd had a few accidents in the lab. He'd He was missing one eye, and he'd done something terrible to his knee playing rugby and all the rest of it. He was one of those teachers that was fantastic. Doc Craik, we called him. And for our class, for showing us sodium, we were just told that we were going down into the woods where the river was. And there was a bridge. And the whole class assembled on the bridge. And he took out this bucket that he had, which was a bucket of oil with a huge lump of sodium in it. And he dropped it off the bridge into the river. And we didn't know what was going to happen.
Oh
but
my goodness.
When that thing went, we scattered. He was the type of chemistry teacher that he was absolutely fantastic. But that's why I always remember our sodium experience.
Did you pick up the dead fish afterwards?
Hey, dynamite fishing, yeah, why not?
Our local river, I don't think had any fish at that point. Sewage, yes, but no fish.
It wasn't the first year he'd done that experiment, Fiona. Of course there weren't any fish.
Yeah. But the other one we did was, does anybody remember making nylon at school?
I found a catalyst.
No, there we go. There's a catalyst.
Yeah.
And it looks like a periodic table of cats.
I'm sure true presidents could recite it from memory in no time at all.
Mm-hmm. So are the ones in the far right the noble castes?
Wait a minute. I hear a new thing now besides flat Earth. There's no such thing as the pure. That table that's bogus. That's lie.
Okay, as someone who is terrible at science, and I'm going to embarrass myself, I have absolutely no clue what happens when you put sodium in water, and why it's so funny, and why people are running away, and why it would kill fish. I don't get it.
Basically, if you're just watching it, it seems to go on fire when it touches the water, and it fizzes around the surface like a manic little speedboat. And then it suddenly explodes.
Yeah.
It's so reactive. So it's stored. It's
I guess
stored
that's why
in a glass bottle under oil so that it cannot come in contact with water because it will burn and explode in contact with water. Mm-hmm. Potassium is even worse. The reaction with potassium goes so fast that to do the same experiment, you have to sit it on a piece of damp filter paper that you've got floating on top of the water to slow it down so you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I learned something years ago about the reason why they're very, very careful with milk spillages is because if it goes in the river or the stream or something like that, it deoxygenates the water and kills all the fish.
Yeah, it's not the milk directly that's doing that. What deoxygenates the water is milk is absolutely chock full of nutrients. And so all of the bacterial growth, the bacteria will go nuts consuming all these nutrients, and they use up the oxygen in the water. So that's how it deoxygenates the water indirectly through the bacteria that are in it and other microorganisms, because they use the milk and fish don't, obviously. And obviously, with no oxygen, then the fish are going to be struggling.
Yeah. Now, in this conversation with Ronnie, you notice he brought up the temperature.
Yes.
And he tries to say, well, because DNA and RNA, of course, is more fragile than DNA. And he says, well, you get it at the high temperatures, it can't last, so therefore it can't form, so therefore you can't have a biogenesis. And this is roughly what he's trying to argue, and he's missing a point because I've listened to him talk about this before. Look at the deep sea vents as a likely place for life to have originated. What he's and a lot of other creationists, which he may not be a young Earth creationist, but he's still a creationist. What the part they're missing? See, they keep saying, "Well, look how hot it is in the vent." Life couldn't have formed in the vent. It's too hot. for these chemicals to, it's too hot for these bonds to form. Bonds, this is not where it's happening. It's not happening in the middle of the vent. You have the vent and it's really, really hot. What happens is you get all these nutrients from the vent, all these, basic chemical nutrients, non-organic, nutrients. And as you move away from the center of the vent, you have all these different areas where you have, it's just, so basically you get to sort of the Goldilocks zone where you're getting tons of nutrients and yet the chemical bonds can form. What their misunderstanding is they keep thinking it's in the center of this really, really hot thermal vent. It's not.
This gentleman ain't already. I'm suspect.
I think I'll mute Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there.
But anyway, that's why Ronnie keeps bringing up the heat. And he says, well, because he's saying RNA could never form because it's too hot. No, it's not. It's not forming in the middle of the freaking vent. That's not what's happening.
Yeah, but you see, this is the thing. I think Ronnie should be writing a paper now, seeing as he knows exactly what the conditions were on the early Earth at the exact time that abiogenesis was supposed to be happening. So first of all, he's going to have to tell us exactly when abiogenesis was supposed to be happening, and then tell us what the conditions exactly were.
But I think he should write a paper, because obviously he's never, ever, ever wrong on anything. Puts you people all right all the time, and so obviously he knows everything.
Yeah, because here's the thing: we don't know exactly what the conditions were like. Neither do we know if and when, at what point, abiogenesis may have happened. We don't have a time point here.
Are you suggesting that Darwin's deity is right, and we can't know that the laws of nature are the same now as they were before?
Not quite, but yeah. But you see, this is the thing. We know sort of the conditions that the Earth has gone through. But Ronnie seems to know what the conditions were at the point that science is saying this is when abiogenesis happened, completely ignoring the fact that nobody in science says that it definitely did happen as this chemical method. They're looking at hypotheses. They're still testing their hypotheses. There is no theory of abiogenesis.
Has he actually said that abiogenesis doesn't exist?
Well, he uses his definition of abiogenesis, and he restricts it purely to chemical abiogenesis,
as opposed to supernatural abiogenesis?
No. Well, you see, abiogenesis is basically meaning life coming from non-life. Abiogenesis. So without biology, the start of life. And that, some people could say, would also include the literal interpretation of the young earth creationism when plants were created on day 3, because the planet had no life and then it had life. So whichever way you slice it, that process happened. We went from having no life to having life. To get around that problem, some will argue, yeah, but God's alive, and they're ignoring the bio in there, abiogenesis. So they're then arguing that God is now a biological form of life, and they don't realise it. But yeah, I mean, abiogenesis, if we go to the root of the word, we're just talking about when first life arose. We're not actually, it doesn't specify which method. Now, the method that science is looking at is chemical abiogenesis.
The biggest problem they also do is they say, look how complicated all these present day one-celled animals and plants and stuff, not realizing that they're highly sophisticated over billions of years now.
I know.
It was not the first life form. The first life forms couldn't exist today because oxygen. Besides that, nothing would eat them because they would be so primitive and so defenseless they wouldn't be able to survive. Period.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go.
Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those things. If you say, you know, you're going to have to accept that at some point life arose on this planet, because your alternative is life has always been on the planet, as in it's eternal, which would make the planet eternal, which means there'd be no creation, or that there is no life on the planet. So it must have started somehow. Because the other two options are, well, if you're going to argue there is no life on this planet, now if you were talking about intelligent life, I might argue there was very little intelligent life on the planet. But life is on this planet. That really is not up for debate. Life as we define it is here. So, how did it get here? When did it go from non-life to life? That would be abiogenesis.
I'll get my magic wand. We'll make it.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a big conspiracy by the Chinese.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that was funny.
Okay, well, I think we're going to give it finished now. So I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. Hopefully the proper JD Kain will be around next week. So in the way that he says it, go fuck yourself.